Hello and welcome to the Healthtech Marketing Summit, or welcome back if you were attending the first session, which was fantastic. I'm Matthew Piette. I'm a fractional CMO and an advisor at HealthLaunchpad. I'm a former head of brand and brand marketing at Philips Healthcare and Exact Sciences Corporation. All of us here at Health Launchpad are delighted to be presenting today's summit. For those of you who don't know us, Health Launchpad is a health tech marketing agency. We help clients like InterSystems, DeepScribe AI, and many others grow their top line and build their brands. In addition to our frontline experience in health tech marketing, our superpower is ABM. It's something we have deep experience in. I want to start by giving a big thank you to our presenting sponsors, Tenon and HIMSS. Tenon, as you heard earlier from Adam, transforms the way marketing teams plan and execute their marketing campaigns at scale. And you all know HIMSS. HIMSS is a global advisor, thought leader, and member-based society committed to reforming the global health ecosystem through the power of information and technology. So, here we are. We have another thought-provoking and highly informative session here for you today. But before I kick off, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items. Yes, the session is being recorded. Please liberally use the chat function. We're going to try to answer many of your questions. Do start by stating which organization you're from and where you are in the world today. And most important, what you would like to get out of today's session. At the end of the session, you'll be able to hit the back button on your browser to return to the main events page, and you can join the next session from there. I'll also be posting the link directly in the chat. Okay, so let's get started. Our session today is on a very big topic: how to build brand, reputation, and authority in our respective businesses. So why is this topic so important? In my view, branding as a discipline has received less attention recently than it has in the past, due, I think, to an industry-wide over-indexing on performance marketing. You heard in the first session the addiction we have to leads. Do we have that same addiction to branding? Branding is often considered an above-the-funnel activity, and many are unclear about how it contributes to the bottom line. Increasingly, however, and at the other end of the spectrum, the expectation is growing that your company is not only seen as profitable, but as a trusted, authoritative, and purpose-driven brand. And I believe that that can have an impact ultimately on the bottom line. So we're here to discuss the centrality of branding in any approach to building a business, and how branding can be seen as a critical element for enterprises as a whole, and for health technology companies in particular. For this, we pulled together a very distinguished panel of experts who have very strong opinions on the worth of brand building, on reputation, and on authority in the health tech arena. I'll now introduce our panelists. Please say hi, each of you, when I say your name. Joining me to help with this conversation, I have Karsten Russell-Wood, who's Chief Marketing Officer at Equim Medical.
Hi, Matthew.
Hey, Karsten. Trina Claggett, who is VP of Marketing at SpinSci. Was Trina able to join us? We had a technical issue. Trina, are you back online and can we hear you? Still got an audio problem, but hopefully that'll be solved. We also have my colleague Justin Metz, content lead at Health Launchpad.
Hey, Matthew, happy to be here.
Hey, Justin. And last but not least, Patty Enrado, who is the Senior Director of Client Content Development at HIMSS Media. So,
thanks to be here, Matt.
Oh, great. Thanks, Tanya. Sorry, I thought that was Trina. Great, Patty. Thank you. So let's get started. Our first topic is on becoming a trusted authority through branding. Karsten, turning to you, how can health tech companies develop a robust thought leadership strategy to establish their brand as a trusted authority?
Yeah, Matthew, I think this session comes at a good time. As we look through the day that's been designed, we talk about marketing, we talk about the preoccupation with lead generation and performance marketing. And you would think, or you would translate that into a sense of urgency to activate a brand. And your introduction to me was spot on. My own thoughts are brand authority is a very meticulous process. It does not happen overnight. We have to differentiate branding and brand, which is the foundation, and something that you have to continuously nurture, from really the marketing that's actually creating the need within the customer base. If we look at our environment, our world today, whether it comes to both the brand and the market, is changing. The marketplace for health tech and health technology is very crowded. So we have to work harder to bring clarity to our identity and our offerings. I would also say that beyond being crowded, it's also increasingly complex. This is because from a marketing end, marketing is, AI, truly the influx of AI generated content is bombarding our buyers, and that's leading to information overload. We have to cut through the noise, and our approach needs to be strategic and well-defined. From the marketing end, we can work on our USP, our unique selling strategy, but how do we cultivate that over time when it comes to our brands? My thoughts are, one, to build that loyal following, we have to cultivate the loyal followership through very relevant content that resonates with our audience across multiple platforms. There has to be, in this organic reach, a sense of consistency so that it builds trust, because clients that are moving into our area or that are interested in our solutions are often skeptical of what is unfamiliar and new. And so really having that proven strategy to build a brand over time works. I'll also point out that building that brand doesn't just happen internally. You have to influence, in my mind, the indirect markets that carry our brand beyond just the omni-channel, avenues that we traditionally have in marketing. This will include media, PR, as well as analyst organizations, which will carry your brand forward through third-party endorsements. And that, again, as we look at a digital world where buyers are more informed when it comes to the time of buying, will build and enhance that credibility. The last point.
Thanks, Karsten.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, last point.
Sorry, I was going to make one last point, and this focuses to me on what I call the partner flywheel effect. Customers want simpler ways to buy, Matthew. And in my mind, that means try and partner where you can to increase the velocity of interest by your customer base.
No, that's great. Thank you, Karsten, for a really comprehensive overview about tackling noise, gaining clarity, trust, through indirect channels as much as direct. Before we move on to you, Patty, interesting question here about thought leadership. What is it? A lot of people pay lip service to it, but what Karsten touched on it, but maybe you could build on what Karsten said. From a content channel perspective, how do you marshal thought leadership so that it becomes more visceral and real as opposed to something that's, we're checking a box? Over to you, Patty.
Yeah, when I think of thought leadership, I think of, you're not trying to market yourself. That you understand the issues, you understand the pain points, you understand the ecosystem, and you're able to comment on it and to really bring real solutions, not technology, product solutions, but you understand the situation, you understand the pain points, and you can thoughtfully, deliver information that's going to be helpful for everybody, for all stakeholders.
Great. Thank you. Justin, can you build on that? What does it take to build a authentic digital brand on social or other channels? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that topic of thought leadership is really important because it really extends, beyond just what are you doing from a corporate brand and a digital brand standpoint into the work that you're doing with the executives and the thought leaders and subject matter experts within your organization. I think a lot of our work at Health Launchpad, when we think of thought leadership, involves really bringing the expertise of your people behind the brand front and center. And how do you demonstrate that in a way that builds authority and trust? And I think, just as Patty had mentioned, it's not just marketing yourself, right? It's that you have something real to offer to the conversation and a real contribution to make. So, I think we can talk about building content. And I think, as Karsten had mentioned, especially as AI continues to dominate, there are so many AI generated blog posts out there that just churning out content now that maybe isn't great content isn't going to be a winning strategy, right? We need to be looking at how do you create content that's relevant and how do we work to elevate the people behind the brand and showcase expertise there, and I think that really involves putting in the work, not just for your brand, but for the people behind the brand. How do you engage and interact with the broader community beyond just posting, but engaging in real meaningful conversations and developing relationships and collaborating and networking? I think all of those things are what take you beyond, just marketing into building both personal and digital brands that really have some real meat behind them and can contribute to the conversation in a meaningful way.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, meaning. I think you used meaningful a couple of times. Meaningful conversations, meaningful content, which is a good segue, Trina, to a question I'd like to ask you is, how do companies leverage corporate citizenship initiatives and reputation management to create a purpose-driven brand? And what about employee advocacy? Where does that play? What does it take to create a purpose-driven brand? Trina, are you back on? No, still not there. Maybe Karsten, you can take that one.
Well, I think, and Trina, step in if the mic starts working. I liked what Justin said, and to me, it's about trust and getting personal, right? We're in a decentralized digital world, but really only when you get personal are you able to really understand and align with the companies that you want to buy from. And buyers are still people. It doesn't matter the level. What does the corporate citizenship and the reputation management come from? First off, as we've seen primarily, I would say through the anecdotes of our professional sports teams and athletic brands, brand is very important. Companies have to stand for something. If we're in health tech, what are we trying to do beyond making money and profit, right? And people are looking for that, especially generationally, looking for aligning with the company beyond what the product is. And corporate citizenship, to me, is about buy-in. It's being part of a team. Citizenship means that we believe in something and we collectively want to see it succeed, and we believe in central values. As an organization, we're going to build the infrastructure of that in marketing through what our corporate culture and values are. And then hopefully, right, by having a successful, corporate and people team, we're able to, build that into something that the employees will express also externally.
That's great. And just sticking with you, just to round this topic out, Karsten, there's a good question here from Stacy that many organizations do not have many clinicians to tap as promotable thought leaders. What other types of personas within a company do you think resonate with health system buyers as authentic spokespeople?
Yeah, and Stacy, to me, what I see is if we're depending on the size of the company, the most important thing is that the executive office personal journey resonates with the buyer. But at the same point, if we're connecting to clinical endpoint buyers, we need to be able to have the professional exchange on par. And the way that we identify that is developing some of the relationships that I alluded to through third-party channels, which could be as simple as organizations, right? You know, you have many professional trade organizations for nurses, for physicians, for specialties. And each of those allows you avenues to bring in and cultivate those relationships of people that will support your brand and speak for your product. To me, it needs to be on par. And that is equal respect for the end buyer, but also the value of what you're doing.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Karsten. Patty, switching to you, how do you turn brand activations and digital activations into true, powerful digital identities on behalf of a company? How do you create a compelling brand narrative that bolsters a brand in general?
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a study that we did, HIMSS Media did in December of 2023 about the evolution of the buyer's journey. And it's interesting, and that the top 3 information sources that people go to, that the buyer goes to, are websites, in-person events, and webinars. So, you know, thinking about those 3 things, you know, how do you make sure that your mission and vision are aligned across, you know, all of these 3 information sources that buyers are going to? I've been to some websites where, you know, you go to the homepage and you don't know what they do everything, but you don't really know what do they really do. So I think it's really important that when people go to your website, that they understand what your mission and your vision is, you know, what you do, and that's, you know, really clear and concise, and that, you know, is spread across all of your information sources, all of your content types, and all of your distribution platforms. So again, in in-person events, you know, at your booth, or, you know, as you're speaking, you know, can you clearly, you know, talk about your mission and vision, you know, what your solution does, and then also with webinars, you know, it's really important to be able to relay that same experience, you know, the mission and the vision. And when you do your webinars, are you doing it in-house, or are you partnering with other organizations? Are you partnering with other industry organizations that share your same vision, that you can, you know, talk about? And, you know, if you have partners, say you may not have as many customers, or it's very hard to get customers to participate, you know, who are your partners? Because I think, especially when we're talking about interoperability, and you want to be able to say, hey, we partner with a lot of people out there, so we have collaborative partners, and I think that's important too. But, you know, going back to, you know, how do you build that strong digital identity? You know, that you look at the 3 top information sources that we saw as, you know, what buyers are looking at. You want to make sure that your mission and your vision are very clear across all 3 of those top information sources that buyers go to.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating. I agree that your vision and mission it's often, you know, a document that's, you know, put in your file folder somewhere. It's a live thing, and your ecosystem will judge you by whether you walk the walk. But they'll also recognize and see a mirror of themselves, I think, in your vision or mission, if it's articulated well enough. Justin, on the digital front, becoming a purpose-driven brand, how do you, from a digital identity perspective, address that on social channels and other digital channels?
Well, I think one of the big things, I agree wholeheartedly with, you know, with what was said about being able to clearly communicate that narrative. And I think it ultimately comes down to, are you using that to not just talk about your product features, but are you telling a compelling story, right, with your brand that connects with the audience? I think one of the things that we see in our consultancy work with health tech companies is everybody's first go-to is like, I want to talk about the features of my product and what it does. And it becomes this really feature-focused, this is my product and these are all the things that it does and this is how it does it best. And, really what we like to focus on is take it a step back, narrow in first on your audience, right? Who are the people that you're selling to and what are their challenges and what are their needs and how are you then uniquely positioned to solve it? And I think as you look at really understanding that buyer journey and the buyer circle, then you can start to ask, like, what are the key problems they're trying to solve? And, what we do is look at every step of the funnel, right? What are the questions that they have and how can we use our storytelling and our content strategy to be able to create answers to those questions, right? To answer in a relevant way. And I think in doing that, moving beyond just the features and benefits messaging, and really focusing in tying in that mission and vision with the buyer journey is really an important way as you figure out, there are different channels and different content strategies that do that better than others, and figuring out like, okay, how do we use events and webinars and infographics and videos on our website and tie all these different tactical things together to be able to do that in a compelling way. I think, taking it a step higher and thinking about it in that sense is really important.
That's great. Yeah, and I think the role of market research also to cross-check whether you're really listening to your audiences is really, really important. And brand research is often overlooked in favor of other product-specific types of research. So if you can develop a cadence of an annual state of the brand research program in whatever way, qualitative or quantitative, I think that goes a long way too. Marty Neumeier in his little book, The Brand Gap, said, branding is really not about you, it's about them. So what are they thinking? What is their perception of you? Don't guess that, measure it, which is a good segue to our last topic on measurement. Justin, just keeping with you, I mean, from research and metrics point of view, what should health tech brands track and measure brand authority regularly, as I suggested? And if so, what are the best methods to do that?
Yeah, I think as you had mentioned, Matthew, formal research and doing that on a regular cadence is great. I think a lot of times we can default to some of the easier, more accessible metrics like, okay, how do we measure awareness and reach from website traffic and view counts and email open rates and those things, which are all important. But, when we're talking about reputation, going deeper and measuring things like engagement and sentiment and what customers are really thinking, what the market's really thinking becomes important. Traditionally looking at NPS scores and surveys are always good tools, but I think taking a more qualitative dive also into things like what's your share of voice compared to competitors, not just through PR but on social and doing social listening. When you're putting out content, what type of engagement is that content getting? A lot of times that can be a really good indication of whether or not what you're saying is really resonating. One of the things with advertising, right? You put enough dollars behind anything and you can pay to get views to it, but like what kind of engagement is your content really generating, and are you generating conversations? And if there are conversations, related to your brand and your products, what's the sentiment around that? And then the other thing that I'll just briefly mention kind of relates into SEO, but looking at the quality and the number of backlinks that you get to your website and what people in the market are saying. Obviously that helps boost you from an SEO standpoint, but when we're talking about authority, having authoritative websites that are having conversations and talking about your brand within the industry is critically important too. So keeping an eye on that.
Thanks, Justin. And you mentioned share of voice. Karsten, just to round us out on this measurement topic, what about quality of voice? We talk a lot about the sort of metrical tactical building of share of voice. How would you measure quality of voice?
So yeah, I really enjoyed where Justin was coming from, and checking it off mentally. Those are the things that we're checking to make sure that we're succeeding in, whether it's referrals, organic, indirect. The quality to me actually relates most directly back to the true nature of brand, which is, are people coming to you to participate together to build and share in a reputational endeavor? That's probably the closest thing to organizational NPS, right? If I can have an indirect channel reach out to say, will you share the stage with me? Will your executives share the same stage? That to me is the qualitative side that, again, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to build that reputation of being a trusted voice in the industry. We'll see it through, speaking at events. We'll see it through developing co-authored, shared white paper thought leadership, Matthew.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks to all the panelists. I'd like to end. Yes. Oh, Trina, you're back. That's
yes,
great.
Finally, my mic is working. If I can add to that, when we talk about those unconventional things that we measure, and we always measure for acquisition, I just want to point out that we also too really need to measure for retention and growth for our existing customer base. So it's really understanding the sentiment of our customers that are using our products, our solutions, how we can continue to support them as they grow in their organization. A true measurement that is an indicator of that would be like the adoption rate within our customers. So understanding, are they truly using the product, consuming the product? Is it delivering the value that was expected? So we, as marketers, we love to focus on acquisition, but we equally need to focus on retention and measuring that metric. How well are we doing? And then let our customers tell our story. That's really going to build that brand reputation and brand authority for us.
That's perfect. Thank you, Trina. And so happy you're able to join right at the end. We have a couple of minutes before we break to questions. And I'd like to, while the audience, please add some more questions. You've had a bit of time to digest what was being said. We're going to break to questions in a minute. But before we do that, I just wanted to ask the panelists, each of you, in 3 words, what are your main takeaways from the session we just had? Starting with you, Justin.
I think for me, it really comes down to consistency and just intentional focus. None of these things happen by mistake, right? We have to plan around them and be really intentional and consistent about the work that we're doing if you're going to make an impact. Because these types of strategies, right? There are no easy fixes. There are no quick fixes. It takes a plan, and it takes consistency and intention.
Okay, that's a lot more than 3 words, but a
Sorry.
great series of words. Thanks, Justin. Patty. Mute.
Partnerships, lean on your partnerships, clarity in your communication, and the third one, truth. What do you do, and how can you really help the industry and your customers, clients? Thank you.
And from what you heard from the session, Trina, I know you had technical problems. What would be your 3 takeaways on this topic?
So I'd absolutely say just continuous education. So just constant learning, collaboration, both internally and externally. And I'll just say bold. Be bold. Think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail. Try something new.
That's great. Karsten, will you be bold and round out the last 3 thoughts?
I'll pull from Trina, because bold also is interesting. The world's oversaturated, so be interesting. The second is data-based. It's hyphenated, Matthew, so I still get one more, because we have to be more accurate, even though we're being judged by performance measures. And the last one is we have to be personal. The story that's winning today is being genuine.
That's great, and thank you for all your genuine comments today. Do we have any questions from the audience? I'd like to open it out now in chat. And if not, we can continue our dialogue here just for a few minutes. Returning to the thought leadership question, the true thought leadership, in your experience as panelists, can you give an example of a really stellar piece of thought leadership either your company has brought out into the market or something you've admired from somewhere else? Let's start with Karsten.
I had a mic. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
So
yeah, Trina.
I'll jump in there, Matthew. So I think one of the best pieces of thought leadership in terms of it's leveraging the experts not only within your company. So when we talk about expertise, evangelists within the company, but then also to thought leadership from our customers. We focus very heavily on, bringing the customer voice forward and letting them tell their story, their experience, whether they were facing a challenge, what the decision pattern, the outcomes, and did they meet those desired outcomes. And so it's really about, when we think about thought leadership, let's think broad, and it doesn't have to be an expert in the area per se, or someone who's published and has a lot of content. It could really be our customers that are providing that thought leadership and sharing their innovation story that's going to inspire others.
That's great. And in fact, Megan just asked the question along those lines. What are some of the common traits you've seen in successful thought leadership? I think you answered that. We have another great question here about the longest sales cycle, especially with healthcare technology companies. How can they use branding to build memory structures in the mind of the target healthcare decision makers so they can easily come to mind when it's time to buy? Yeah, I often say the difference between marketing and branding is marketing is for now and branding is forever. I mean, it's a long cycle of persistent, committed communications that helps change the hearts and minds of customers, so that they have an image of you in their mind when they first talk to you. They've already, through ABM, they've already encountered you. They've seen your message. But the question is good. How do you build memory structures? I like that phrase from Rachel. Let's go to Patty.
Yeah, and I think about the buyer's journey, right? It's a journey that you have to go through. So, there are different pieces of content that are going to carry you through that journey. So whether it's, education awareness in the beginning to mid-funnel to, a lot of, product specs about your product. So it's understanding which content pieces you need to create and the cadence that you send those out with. And then you look at those three information sources again, in-person events, webinars, and websites. So you need to think about how do I align those different pieces of content that are going to take someone through a buyer's journey, and how do I put that across those three information sources that those buyers are looking at?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Are there any other questions from the audience? I'm also curious from the audience, what have you found most useful in today's discussion? Please use the chat to summarize that. If you could write what you found most useful from what you've learned today, that would be really, really interesting. So as we wait for a few of these comments to come in, I think we just need to move on now, and I'd like to wrap up and thank our speakers today. It's been a wonderful audience discussion. If you're interested in moving forward and learning more, we're launching a masterclass on ABM. That's Health Launchpad, a masterclass on ABM that Adam is running in June, and an AI marketing enablement workshop in May. I'm going to put the links to both events in the chat in a minute. The ABM one is a 12-week program that will help you get from understanding ABM a little better all the way to implementing a pilot. The AI one is a cutting edge workshop for AI in marketing. So I'm just going to put both of those links in the chat. Let me do it. There we go. And I just want to wrap up this session again by thanking Karsten, Trina, Patty, and Justin, especially Trina for suffering through the technical difficulties, all your insights today. I would like to direct everyone to the next session, which is just about to start. You can either do a backspace to the homepage or go directly to a link, which I will also post in the chat.
Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks everybody for your comments and what you took from Trina and Patty and Justin and Karsten. There's some great comments there, so we really appreciate that, and we'll take that away to Health Launchpad. So with that, I will close the session.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.